Negotiations to reopen the government at a stalemate tonight as the shutdown enters week 5. Good evening in Washington, I'm Jenna Browder. Time is running out for 42 million Americans who rely on federal assistance to put food on the table. The SNAP program, which helps about 1 in 8 Americans buy groceries, is expected to run out of money by the end of the week. Families are turning to food banks and local churches as the shutdown drags on. And in Washington, the blame game continues. Democrats insist on restoring Obamacare tax credits before any deal. Republicans say that discussion can wait until after the government reopens.
Here's the very simple and important fact that no one should forget. We have no ability. Republicans do not have the ability to do this on our own.
Sadly, President Trump has chosen to take away food from people all around this country.
And the shutdown also rippling through air travel, with air traffic controllers working without pay and staffing shortages leading to delays at major airports. All right, for more on this, let's bring in our panel, senior White House correspondent Kelly Wright and Nathan Gonzales, editor and publisher of Inside Elections and a Faith Nation contributor. Gentlemen, welcome to you. Kelly, to you first. We heard the governor of Massachusetts there blaming this on President Trump. Does he have the power to end this shutdown, and what role is he playing in all of this, Kelly?
Well, Jenna, good evening to you. First of all, the governor of Massachusetts is charging the president as being responsible for this government shutdown. The president, however, is actually stating that he wants to get Democrat and Republican leaders together and let them offer him a way of getting the government reopened and then cutting a deal to avert everything else that's happening right now, with the federal workers being laid off, some of them furloughed, some of them without jobs, and of course that SNAP program that's going to impact 42 million people who rely on SNAP for their food supplements. The president indicated on Friday he would try to move some things around for some funding that could be provided to alleviate that. That has not happened thus far. And Everett Kelly, the American Federation of Government Employees National President, says it's time for Congress to get back to doing what it has to do, and that is to lean into a clean CR, get that done, because he added the shutdown is causing far too much pain for too many Americans.
Yeah, you know, Nathan, when we talk about SNAP running out of funding at the end of this week, both sides seem to be waiting to see who the public will blame. What's your sense, Nathan, on which way things are leaning right now? And do you think one of the sides is maybe close to having to concede?
Well, the important thing is that right now both sides believe they have the political advantage, and as long as that is the case, then neither side is going to want to compromise. I think the SNAP benefits are something that has a broader impact outside of the DC Beltway, but even if that happens and those benefits don't arrive to the people who receive them, it's still going to be a little bit of time before we know the political fallout, right? Those benefits won't get received, and then pollsters will go into the field and ask people, how do you feel? Who do you blame for this? And it's going to take another couple of days to digest those results, and so we're talking still about a multi-day process before knowing how that plays out. And I think it's important to remember, now that Arizona Democratic Senator Ruben Gallego of Arizona, he was saying, he was at the Capitol doing an interview, and he said, look, Democrats, we want to have these discussions about compromise, but House Republicans haven't been at the Capitol in weeks, and the president is in Asia, doing work in Asia. And so it's the interesting tidbit is that House Republicans not being around at the Capitol, how long can they do that? I think before the public is saying, hey, they're not even coming to the table.
You mentioned President Trump's trip in Asia. He's there for a 6-day, 3-country swing. He landed in Malaysia yesterday, Japan today. Several trade agreements have been announced. And then Trump presided over the signing of a peace agreement between Cambodia and Thailand. The most anticipated event, though, comes Thursday when Trump meets with Chinese President Xi Jinping in South Korea. Kelly, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has announced a trade framework between the U.S. and China. It does seem like the U.S., the Trump administration, is optimistic here heading into this visit.
There is potential for that. The reason why the president is optimistic is, as he stated on Air Force One during a gaggle, that he says that he believes he and Xi will have a great meeting this week. The world is watching very closely, as many people know, because these are the 2 largest economies in the world. So while the president is making trade deals with various countries in Asia during this trip, He is scheduled to meet with Xi this week, as you know, and of course this is very important. And so that framework that's been developed by Scott Bessent and others working with the president's team and President Xi's team of China, they are trying to get this framework to get to a point where they'll deal with fentanyl, they'll deal with the trade tariffs and situations like that. They'll also focus on what they can do about those rare minerals to make sure that China doesn't try to maintain global control of that. So the president is kind of optimistic about this, but again, these are two men that know each other, but what will they do in terms of competing against each other for benefiting their countries? Yeah,
this is their first in-person meeting since 2019, so the first visit in Trump's second term. Nathan, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the administration sending naval ships to the Caribbean. It's carried out lethal strikes in an attempt to stop drug trafficking. It's calling some of these cartels the ISIS of the Western Hemisphere. At the same time, though, Nathan, it is drawing some criticism from some of President Trump's critics here at home and also some countries in South America. Can you talk a little bit about that?
The challenge is that there's concern that the administration is not following through on processes that are agreed upon kind of by the world at large. And say, well, what are you talking about? That the president and the White House tends to declare that we are, either war or crisis or invasions in order to justify certain actions. And there's, concern that rather than going through Congress for declaration of war, or that the boats that are being eliminated and attacked, are they really a threat to the country? Could they even reach the shores of the United States? And maybe it is justified, but right now it's being done without the full transparency, I think, that is expected. And so the concern from other countries is like, well, if the president just decides, oh, you're an enemy of the country, and then just starts moving ships around and shooting things down or blowing things up, that really, what is it justified? And the president believes he's in his right to do it, that they're protecting the country, but the level of transparency, I think, is what is concerning in multiple ways.
Yeah, and Kelly, there's an aircraft carrier in the Caribbean right now, a U.S. aircraft carrier, carrying our most advanced technology and military weaponry. I wonder if you might want to weigh in on that. And
yeah, I do, because the president and the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, are sending a clear message to Venezuela as well as Colombia about how they intend to stop narco trafficking into the United States. And they're even talking about, the president's talking about even basically looking at land as well. Will there be a land incursion? So this is putting a lot of people on edge. But the president says that what's happened so far has been highly effective in stopping drug boats from Venezuela and Colombia, expanding strikes on alleged traffickers, and he claims there are no boats anymore, and says sinking them saves American lives from drugs, as well as killing who he believes are enemies to the United States because of bringing illegal trafficking of drugs here.
Okay, we just have a few seconds left, but I want to ask you guys about the New York City mayoral race. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries has given a last-minute endorsement to Democratic Socialist Zohran Mamdani. Nathan, maybe just a few seconds, and then Kelly will get your thoughts.
I mean, Jeffries is ultimately a New York Democrat who wants Democrats to be in control of as many offices as possible, but it comes with some risk, right? What's good for the city of New York is not necessarily good for the Democratic Party national brand and other Democrats around the country. So that's why he was slow to do this.
Yeah. Kelly, last word?
So real quickly, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson says what has happened now is that the Democrat Party has lost its way and is actually abdicating its responsibility and its forward thinking to Marxism as well as socialism.
Okay, Kelly and Nathan, thank you both. Great to see you this Monday.